What happens when a man lets go of everything he knows and dares to descend into the depths of his own mind? Carl Jung did exactly that. And what he returned with, he recorded in a mysterious book, bound in red leather, filled with visions, symbols, and dialogues with the unconscious. This is the Red Book, and it may hold the keys to understanding the soul itself. There comes a time when knowledge is no longer enough, when logic fails, when the world outside grows silent and the world within begins to roar. In 1913, Carl Jung stood on the edge of a great unknown, a respected psychiatrist, a scientist, and yet he began to experience terrifying inner visions. He saw floods sweeping across Europe, oceans of blood, a voice telling him, "You must go deeper." Most would have turned away, but Jung did something few dare to do. He stepped into the abyss, and for years he wandered through inner landscapes no map could chart. He spoke with figures that no one else could see. He painted what he found. He wrote it down, bound in red leather, illuminated in gold and deep blue. This was no ordinary book. It was a record of his soul's journey. And he called it Liber Novus, the New Book. But we know it by another name, the Red Book. The descent began quietly. Carl Jung was 38 years old. He had just broken with Freud, severing one of the most important friendships in modern psychology. Externally, he was a man at the height of his career. Internally, he was unraveling. Then came the visions. In October 1913, Jung boarded a train. As the fields passed by the window, he was overcome by an image. A great flood washing over Europe. Endless death. He saw Europe drowning in blood. He wasn't asleep. This was no dream. It was a vision. And it came again. And again. Not long after, the First World War broke out. Jung believed he had witnessed the collective unconscious anticipating catastrophe. But what terrified him more than the vision itself was what it meant. That something far deeper was speaking to him. He knew what he had to do. Jung made a radical decision to stop analyzing others and begin analyzing himself. He called it active imagination, a kind of waking dream, a method of consciously entering into dialogue with the unconscious. Every night, he closed his eyes and entered another world, a world of gods, spirits, voices, and shadows, a world beneath the ego, a world where symbols lived. Jung once wrote, "I had to let myself plummet down into the depths. I had to let the images emerge." And so he did. For years. What he found there would change the course of psychology forever. Before we continue, please take a second to like this video. It really helps more people discover these ideas. And if you're enjoying this journey into the mysteries of the mind, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, back to the video. As Jung ventured deeper, the landscape of his mind transformed. What began as abstract feelings or fleeting images became full encounters, with voices, beings, archetypes. He wasn't simply observing his unconscious. He was in dialogue with it. One of the first figures to appear was an old man with wings, named Philemon. Philemon became Jung's guide, a kind of inner sage, not a fantasy, but in Jung's words, a living personality within me. Jung understood. He had entered a mythic realm, a place where symbols walked and the psyche spoke in stories. Every figure, every landscape was part of himself, yet also more than himself. These were the archetypes, the timeless forces shaping every human life. The warrior, the wise old man, the shadow, the divine child. He wasn't losing his mind. He was witnessing it, fully. The Red Book became his journal of these encounters. Page after page, he wrote down what he saw, what he felt, what these inner beings told him. He didn't censor, he didn't judge. He let the unconscious speak in its own language. And then he painted vivid mandalas, mythical creatures, cosmic patterns, all by hand, all from within. These weren't just artistic expressions, they were maps of the psyche, symbols of inner transformation. In this process, Jung wasn't trying to solve a problem. He was trying to become whole, not just a rational man, not just a doctor, but a human being who had faced his inner world and come back changed. He later said, "The years when I pursued the inner images were the most important time of my life." Jung didn't create the Red Book as a scientific manual. He created it as a record of a soul in transformation. But what he discovered had profound psychological meaning. He realized that the human psyche isn't just made of thoughts and memories. It's built from ancient structures, archetypes, patterns of meaning shared by all of us. These patterns live in the collective unconscious, a hidden realm beneath our personal story. When we ignore it, it speaks in dreams, symptoms, fears, and fantasies. But if we listen, it can guide us toward healing, toward individuation. That's Jung's word for the journey of becoming whole, not perfect, not happy all the time, but integrated, where the conscious and unconscious are in dialogue, where the shadow is no longer feared but understood. The Red Book is more than a diary. It's a map of this inner journey, a descent, a meeting, and a return. It teaches that we each carry a myth within us, that healing isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about facing what we've hidden, your fear, your shame, your unlived life. Jung believed that only by making the unconscious conscious can we truly become ourselves. That requires courage, stillness, and a willingness to listen to the voices within. As Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." The Red Book is an awakening. Jung didn't just explore his psyche, he wrote a modern myth. The Red Book is more than a diary or a case study. It's a sacred text born from psychological descent. It tells the story of a soul that leaves the surface world behind and descends into its own abyss, seeking meaning in chaos. In this journey, Jung confronts death, divine figures, inner monsters, and paradoxes. But instead of clinging to logic or dogma, he allows himself to be transformed. He listens, he paints, he surrenders control, and in doing so, he builds a bridge between consciousness and the unconscious, between the seen and the unseen. This is why the Red Book resonates so deeply today. In a time of constant noise and distraction, it calls us back to silence and symbol, to the lost inner language we once spoke as children, artists, mystics. It reminds us that healing, growth, and meaning don't come from escaping life's contradictions, but from living them fully, from becoming whole, not perfect. Jung's myth is not a solution. It's an invitation, a call to begin your own descent, because somewhere in your depths, your own Red Book is waiting to be written. Carl Jung didn't publish the Red Book during his lifetime. He feared it would be misunderstood, too mystical, too personal, too strange. It remained hidden in a Swiss vault for decades, a secret chapter of one of the greatest minds in psychology. And yet, this hidden book may be the most important thing he ever created. It shows us that the path to wholeness isn't found in perfection, but in descent, in courage, in the willingness to face the unknown inside us. The Red Book invites us to ask, what symbols are shaping my life? What voices am I ignoring? What truths live in the depths I refuse to enter? Because in the end, Jung's journey is not just his own. It is a mirror of yours. If this video spoke to something deep in you, something wordless, ancient, and strangely familiar, that's not random. That's your unconscious knocking. Tell me in the comments, what part of your own inner world are you beginning to see differently? Subscribe to explore more journeys through philosophy, depth psychology, and the unseen forces within. Thanks for watching. Stay curious and keep going inward. See you in the next video.